start writing your name and presenting, introducing yourself in the chat. We'll start in about a minute. We're very excited that you're here with us. And yes, just start by already introducing yourselves. Then we'll kick it off shortly. All right. Well, we're right on time. So welcome. Welcome to this Wednesday webinar. We're very happy to have you here today with us. I'm happy to introduce Sunday Akuru from WFP Nigeria. He's going to be talking to us about his vision of drivers and how he has been engaging drivers successfully in WFP Nigeria. He was just as a side note, he was our Green Challenge winner with his team during the DRP 2022. And we will have first 20 minutes of Sunday explaining to us a bit his vision, and after the Q&A mode has been enabled, so don't hesitate to type in your questions in the chat and we'll air them after Sunday's finished. So enjoy, and Sunday is up to you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Sunday Akuru, like Natalie just said. Today I'll be looking at we'll be looking at the objectives of this presentation. So for the objectives of this presentation, I'll be talking about the background and my journey in the transport industry and how it has informed my engagement style in fleet management, and what are my unconventional means of managing fleet and the impact it has on program delivery. So I am the fleet associate in WFP Nigeria, where I manage 40 official vehicles and 35 drivers in 5 separate locations in the country, including the administration of hired vehicles and their utilization. So the objective of this presentation basically is for everyone to see how my background and journey in transport inform my engagement style in fleet management. During the course of this presentation, you'll be able to experience also the unconventional means that I use to introduce for managing a fleet and the impact it has on program delivery. Next slide, please. So my career into fleet management started in 2011 as a driver for a privately owned firm. When I was working as a driver there, I noticed how drivers were treated not so nicely. I'm very sure that some of you would have heard the phrase common drivers, if you understand what I mean. So if you, even though I had the opportunity to drive, very important people, and I learned a little about how they handled business from the way they spoke, the way they dressed, and the way they interacted with other people. Personally, myself, I was still not satisfied with the way they treated drivers. For instance, I was expecting that I would be recognized for the contribution that I made and be rewarded at times for saving costs for the organization. In 2015, I decided to join the humanitarian world, where I thought I would find a better working environment. I was very fortunate to be recruited by the United Nations in Nigeria. My first point of call was at an agency known as UN Women. It was there that I worked as a driver and an office clerk. So I didn't limit myself to driving alone. So I made myself available to supporting admin, finance, communications, and program colleagues in data entry, record keeping, and setting up event centers wherever I had a program. During this period, I worked extra time without putting money as a focus. I was a strong team member. I helped our team succeed in all the activities that they hosted through teamwork. So this made me very happy, just knowing that I could be a part of the team. I was also the only driver at the time, and I noticed that we could not pass. I wasn't the only driver at the time, sorry to say, and I noticed that we couldn't pass along our insane and weird ideas to the management because we had no voice. So I then decided to take another higher role. So I applied to become the head of drivers in another UN agency, which is WFP. And then I got the position in 2017. So as the head of drivers, I was able to play a supervisory role where some of my weird and non-traditional ideas could be utilized to resolve some of the challenges reported by the drivers. I was able to achieve some desired result, but I wanted more. So I started aiming for the highest position in fleet management in my organization that could give me a measure of control to understand the strength and the weaknesses of the drivers, and then to challenge the drivers to do greater things, to be able to introduce some of my ideas that I knew could change the narratives and be able to measure the progress and impact it has upon implementation. So I then took some courses in basic and advanced fleet management and had the support of a mentor in Fleet Forum that helped me to focus, and that made me to succeed in getting the role in 2021. So since then, we have strategically improved our operational costs and reduced the total cost of ownership. Owing to poor utilization of vehicles in the past, we made recommendations to downsize and resize our fleet from 60 vehicles to 40 vehicles. So consistently conducting improved routine maintenance, monitored fuel quality and management, and ensured that we improve drivers' behavior and attitude. And today, all our vehicles are operational. We have fewer reports on vehicle incidents. We have saved more on fuel consumption and unscheduled maintenance, massively reduced our carbon impact on the environment, and have also improved both fleet availability from 70% to 90% in less than 2 years, and fleet utilization from less than an average of 50% to about 89% in less than 1 year alone. Next slide, please. So how did we start and what changed in our fleet management style? For me, first and foremost, I think there was a need for the perception of who a driver is in an organization to be changed. Okay, a driver, as we know it, is one who is seen to operate a vehicle from one point A to another point B successfully. But before we continue this webinar, this presentation, I would like to hear from you. If you can give us your own definition of who a driver is. So I'll be looking at the chat for 1 minute to see your definition of who a driver is. In your own words, just define, who is a driver to you? Okay. Okay. Timothy said a driver is an operator of a machine. That's very correct. Okay. Anyone who can drive a vehicle perhaps is a driver, right? Okay. All right, so let's continue. So today I have redefined who a driver is, okay? So for me, a driver is an adventurous, curious, patient, and proactive individual that operates a vehicle in a safe and secure manner. So I've also gone further to define who a professional driver is. So using this definition I've given as a driver, I can tell you that a professional driver is an adventurous, curious, patient, and proactive individual who is recruited as a critical member, mark the word critical member of an organization, specifically recruited to operate an office vehicle in a safe, secure, cost-effective, and eco-friendly manner, while also engaging in other office activities as the need arises. So this definition makes a driver more engaged in office activities that will positively promote the image of the organization, while ensuring that planned program activities are delivered in a manner that is not only pleasing to the organization, but to the society that we operate in. All right. It also ensures that he drives in a way that helps preserve the environment that we work and live in. Next slide, please. So in this slide, we'll be looking at supporting the growth and development of drivers. So the question here is, What actions did we take to support growth and development of drivers in WFP Nigeria? So first and foremost, we had to change the mindset of our drivers to see themselves as important members of the organization. Okay, we had several meetings with them to make them understand that there is dignity in labor and that examination is never the true test of knowledge. After that, I gradually studied each and every one of them to know their strengths and their weaknesses so that I could gradually assign roles in fleet management to them on a rotational basis. I introduced on-the-job training for them, where I actively supported them to play those roles while supervising their performance. So these roles were focused mainly on the monitoring of vehicle mileage to ascertain when a vehicle is due for maintenance, the monitoring of the fuel gauge to ascertain when refueling is required, training on documentation and record keeping as it relates to fuel maintenance, the collection of data, and helping them analyze how they were performing. So after then, we engage all of them in different types of external training that had to do with driving competency, like defensive drivers training, evasive drivers training, and armored vehicle training. And now I've also introduced to them, with the approval of our management, to a training that will improve their soft skill and their humanity. So we regularly had meetings with the drivers to discuss also the causes of vehicle breakdown and the effect that they had on the drivers. So other staff members, the effect they had on drivers, other staff members, and the organizations. So I taught them what to do to prevent it from occurring by allowing them to conduct a genuine daily checks on the vehicle and report suspicious issues that may lead to vehicle breakdown. So we also welcome every piece of feedback from the drivers and encourage all of them to speak up while assuring them that their suggestions will be used. We let them know that nothing is cast on stone. So if one suggestion doesn't work, then we can try the suggestion from another driver. We also made recommendations. Myself, I intentionally made recommendations to the head of unit to diversify their learning in the area of administration, in the area of protocol and travel when the opportunity arises, because I believe that the training opportunity, although basic in nature, can help trigger an interest that may have been dormant in drivers. So after all of this, we have since noticed some drivers' interest in other roles, which is good for self-development. In everything we did, we ensured that we were seen to be demonstrating gender sensitivity and empathy. We were seen to be encouraging learning, supporting growth and development, giving the drivers a huge sense of belonging, allowing them to make suggestions on issues that affect them, and making sure that their feedback is not in vain. So this has made our drivers feel included in the scheme of things and has helped the organization also to meet its goals and objectives in recent time. Next slide, please. How did we do all of this again? We did it in three ways. One, we introduced competition, we rewarded them, and we found a way of recognizing them. We created a system to recognize them. Okay, so how were we able to introduce competition? What kind of competition? How did we reward our drivers, and how did we have them to be recognized? So in 2021, we introduced a system that measures the cost and savings in fuel, in maintenance, and in vehicle availability on a quarterly basis. A driver is declared a winner based on a fair and transparent process based on some agreed upon key performance indicators. The drivers who emerges as the winner, okay, is announced by the head of administration to all the admin staff nationwide. And such a driver remains the best driver for a period of 3 months until a new champion emerges. We also ensure that drivers are well compensated when they work extra hours, either by way of compulsory time off or by monetary compensation when compulsory time off is not possible due to operational reasons. We encourage drivers to take study leave and annual leave to improve their education, reduce their fatigue and burnout, and foster a better family relationship by creating a leave plan that works, that is mandatory. We also took over. When I took over as the fleet manager in 2021, what I did was to encourage the management to pay an annual monetary reward for accident-free drivers at the end of every year. So this encouraged our drivers not to be aggressive on the road and discouraged them also from overspeeding. We introduced the spirit of external competition. So just take note, this is not internal, external competition, by making sure that our drivers participated for the first time in Fleet Forum Driver Recognition Program in 2022, so that they could compete globally with other drivers and learn something new from their interactions on social media. So I made sure that drivers were informed about the championship. Then I took steps to register all of them. I then created clear KPIs to measure their performance on fuel consumption, overspeeding, vehicle incident, and engine idling. This result was used to screen the top 5 performing drivers from the rest. I then gave the 5 performing driver a task to create short videos for themselves to show the world how they were able to succeed on the initial task of reducing carbon emission and the cost of operation. So they were given the opportunity to do it themselves without any form of micromanaging. So this made the process competitive and every driver wanted to impress. I could see how drivers who did not make it to this stage of the competition came out to support the 5 top drivers. Though the videos were a bit amateur in nature because it was made from personal Android phones, we submitted the videos that way to the DRP 2022 team. So during the period of the competition, we held regular meetings with all our drivers to remind them that regardless of whether we win or not, we are all champions in our own right, both to the organization, the planet that we live in, and the people that we serve. So to our biggest surprise, those amateur videos went all the way to win the DRP 2022 Green Challenge competition for WFP Nigeria, bringing recognition to the WFP as an organization and the drivers that took part in this external competition. Next slide, please. So what are those things we can say are achievements and where do we need to improve? Okay, so during my first year upon resumption as a fleet manager with WFP Nigeria, we were able to repair 3 of our damaged armored vehicles that have been grounded and non-operational for close to 3 years, and made huge savings for the organization by simply, making good decisions and advice to management with respect to the overhauling procedure and the procurement process. Now, over $25,000 was saved in that single, operation alone, and several thousands of dollars more were also saved through regular utilization of these repaired vehicles. Okay, as of today, most of our drivers have gone back to school to improve on their education, in strong belief that this can help better their career path. Although this is still work in progress, as I believe that many of them will still grow and become more productive in their future endeavor. As a result of constant monitoring and better fleet decision with respect to quality of fuel and maintenance procedure that we designed, fleet availability improved by over 20%, and we hope that it will improve further. Okay, so the fleet utilization in my organization is now over 90% because of right sizing. When we noticed redundancy, we recommended relocating drivers to other locations that they are needed the most, and we recommended that instead of outright dismissal. So this helped the organization to improve on vehicle fleet utilization, and also helped them to save costs associated with recruitment process. We've been able to reduce vehicle incidents from what it used to be in the past 3 years, because we improve on our drivers' behavior as it relates to aggressive driving and overspeeding, and the introduction of, the reward system, the financial reward system for drivers who don't get involved in any form of accident. So we have reduced engine idling from an average of 50 incidents in a month to less than 5. As the champion focal point for the implementation of carpooling in Nigeria, I have been able to rally around, other agencies in the United Nations here in Nigeria that we have an MOU with to provide transport support to their staff members. In areas where we used to use 3 or more vehicles, now we use just 1 vehicle as the case may be. This has helped all of us to reduce our carbon footprint in the environment we operate in. This also means huge savings and a win-win situation for everyone, including the environment. In 2022, like I mentioned before, we proved to the world how We support eco-friendly environment through drivers' engagement in good behavior while driving. Our actions were demonstrated in very short videos, and we shared with Fleet Forum and on social media. WFP in that competition emerged as the Green Challenge champion during the Fleet Forum Driver Recognition Program in 2022, and the drivers were well recognized. Today, we cannot thank the management of WFP Nigeria enough for all the support that we have received so far. Next slide, please. So the analysis on your screen is basically an excerpt of our annual report based on the 2022 fuel and maintenance cost of the fleet that I manage in Nigeria. From the graph, you can see the different models of vehicles that we have, the average fuel consumption. The graph also shows that fuel consumption has significantly improved by model due to the strategy we put in place to ensure that vehicles are well maintained, driving behavior is monitored, and monitoring of fuel quality is in place. So we are confident that we can also improve on the gains made so far if we motivate our drivers even more. On the flip side, if you look at the other graph to your right, you will also notice that we are spending more on maintenance because our vehicles are getting older. We have a policy in the WFP that a vehicle that has done 5 years or 150,000 kilometers has reached its end of life. So as I stated earlier, we have right-sized our fleet from 60 to 40 in less than 2 years. Now, of the 40 vehicles that we have also identified 10 vehicles for decommissioning due to our end-of-life policy, and I've received 4 new vehicles so far in 2023. So it is still work in progress, and hopefully in 2023, we'll be able to improve on our performance with respect to the maintenance cost, as we already started initiating the process of replacement for these vehicles. Next slide, please. So in conclusion, I would like to end this presentation by saying that attitude is everything. So if a driver knows how to drive, observes good driving behavior, but has a bad attitude, then we have failed. In 2023, I decided to introduce to management the need for soft skill training for all our drivers. We are hopeful that this training on attitude will make them better in interpersonal relationship and help the fleet team showcase better customer service to the people that we serve. During the course of this presentation, I am very, very hopeful that I was able to show you that drivers are a critical tool of an organization, and that they are being unseen by many, but are required by the organization for successful program delivery. I'm also hoping that by now you would have seen how drivers are underrated, how they are underreported, and ignored in the scheme of things in most organizations. I've also successfully used non-traditional means to prove that drivers are as important as other staff members in any organization. So I encourage every leader here today to invest in a driver and recognize their efforts starting from today. You can be rest assured that it will most definitely bring great success to your organization. I was once a driver, and I'm very proud to have been one. It opened my eyes to the reality of life. An investment in a driver today is a wise one. So now is the time to invest wisely. Thank you very much for joining this presentation. I come to the end, and at this stage, I will ask Natalie to please move to the next slide for questions and answer, and take questions from our colleagues.
All right. Oops. All right. Thank you, Sunday. So let me share one question here. 1 second. Oops. So, hi, Sunday. Do you see that your approach leads to a better retention of your drivers? Can you tell us a bit about that? I think we are all sometimes struggling with drivers who move to other organizations just for salary. Any thoughts on that, Sunday?
Okay, thank you very much, Kiara Scott. Thanks for that question. What we did basically in the WFP was to look at all our duty stations, right? We'll look at the feedback we are getting in terms of programs that we needed to deliver, and then the resources that we had on ground. Okay, for us, instead of just looking at one duty station and saying the drivers are redundant and train them out, it was far cheaper for us to rearrange them. We relocated some to places where they are needed, and then the other one started performing optimally. And this applies to both drivers and the vehicles of the fleet. In terms of drivers' retention, I think recognizing a driver, rewarding them appropriately, letting them feel that they are part of the system will help your driver stay longer. So really, sometimes it's really not about money. It's about how you see them, how you interact with them, what you can do to help them develop. Okay, but in terms of reward, I think whoever has done something good for the organization should be recognized and rewarded one way or the other.
All right, thank you. And then here's another one from Ibuka. Dear Danny, congratulations once again to you and your team on the Green Challenge Champion in the 2022 DRP. With your experience in fleet management, which would you advise? A driver assigned to one particular vehicle in the fleet against driver assigned to more than one vehicle in the fleet, with the merits and demerits of both systems. So one driver, one vehicle, or one driver, many vehicles?
Okay, so the question I would like to ask a rhetorical question, because in my presentation I talked about us having an oversized fleet where you have 60 vehicles and you had 35 drivers. So in that case, how do you assign one vehicle to a driver? Okay, that's very difficult. So what we needed to do was to right size the fleets, okay, to make the fleet more reasonable. So in that case, you can actually assign one vehicle to a driver. The reason why you do that is because it makes the drivers more accountable. Okay, in a situation where you see something not right with a vehicle, you can be able to identify the driver who is in charge of that vehicle to give an explanation of what happened to that vehicle. In terms of the right type of fleet management, it is usually important for you to assign a vehicle to a driver for better monitoring and better control.
All right, thank you. And then here's another question from Timothy. How do you manage fraud of fuel, especially truck drivers? And many drivers complains about, so that's the second one, about field missions DSA.
Okay, so
DSA being per diem or other people. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me start with DSA. Every organization has its or her own policy regarding DSA. Okay, so it is the responsibility of the management to determine what DSA goes to an individual for a particular location. So this is a policy thing. Okay, what works for WFP may not necessarily work in some other agencies. Okay, so I would advise that in this kind of situation, it is better to have this kind of discussion with senior management for them to determine, and then to create a policy that can be shared with everyone involved for them to know how it works. On the issue of fraud relating to fuel, we have our own system in the WFP. We have the fleet management system that we use in tracking fuel consumption and performance of vehicles. Okay, sometimes you might ordinarily think that a driver must have been playing some funny tricks, but perhaps maybe the vehicle itself is getting old or not properly maintained. Okay, the first thing I would say when it comes to issues of fraud or management of fuel is to first of all find out which vehicle are we talking about. What is the end of life policy for that vehicle? What stage is that vehicle in the end of life policy? And then if the vehicle is very old, you can take it to the workshop for them to confirm if the engine works properly, oil pressure is okay, if the fuel pump or the injector nozzles and all that are working functionally. Once that is confirmed, then you can put it on, you can keep it in view where you monitor it. Okay, you can even switch drivers to see how it performs, and that will give you an idea. That is how we manage fraud. That's how we manage fuel in our organization. We take critical steps to address the issue that are either mechanical or has to do with age of the vehicle. And after that, if we can establish that it is not correct, then we can now start looking in the direction of fraud. But first and foremost, we don't just jump into fraud for things like this. Over.
Okay, Sunday, one last question. We have 2 minutes, and then we'll have to wrap it up. So here's one last question. You made quite some investments in your drivers, with the study and how you did the soft skills, all the trainings, etc. So how did you make the business case that convinced your management?
Okay, so it wasn't really like something huge. A lot of our drivers have been engaged in a lot of external trainings, and these trainings have become very boring. Every time you come to a driver that has been in the system for a lot of years, and you're telling him about how to drive a car, they know how to drive a car, all right? They are tired of the same training over and over again. They want something new, something exciting, something that we make them more interested in the organization. Okay, that's why even in my presentation, almost the last slide, I talked about introducing to management, soft skill training, the training that has to do with the attitude of people. Okay, hard skills, everybody can do hard skills, all right, but soft skills, not everybody knows that what they're doing is wrong. So we need to teach them etiquette, we need to teach them courtesy, we need to teach them a lot of things that will make themselves better, that will improve their relationship with people and create better networking with people and all that. So that's how we presented that case to our management. We made them see that if you invest on human qualities, that it will also make them better in the way we serve the people that we meet on daily basis.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there's many more questions, but we are running out of time. So what we're going to do is we'll forward these questions to Sunday, and we will provide them with answers with the recording when we send out the summary of the webinar. So thank you very much for your participation. And we hope to see you next Wednesday for the next webinar. Thank you, Sunday, for this very interesting presentation. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.